Yes, good evening everyone. May I request Dr. Captain Indrani ma'am, Executive Committee member of iSPELL and convener of South Karnataka Forum to start the event formally. Please ma'am.
Good evening, Pramod sir. A very good evening to everyone present over here on this virtual mode. Today is 70th satsang with the contemporary literature and modern theories. I take immense pleasure to speak few words about iSPELL, where I'm deeply associated with. Today, iSPELL has reached to that pinnacle of success where all over the world with many MOUs which has been signed. And this is a real literary gathering where like-minded people are together to elevate oneself. And it is a promise where a new horizon of learning has started. On behalf of this iSPELL, I take immense pleasure to all those who have gathered over here and my heartfelt welcome to the keynote speaker, Dr. Venkateshwara sir, and the chairperson, Dr. Neelam ma'am, Neelam Yadav ma'am, and Master of Ceremony, Dr. Professor Joseph Charles Joseph. To speak about iSPELL, I feel very proud because Indian Society for Promotion of English Language and Literature is a real sense of literary forum which is working to elevate and to facilitate. It is a team of erudite scholars who are the pillars of this forum, giving their heart and soul to serve the English literary lovers. It was started on 5th September 2020 with a high note and motto, facilitate and elevate. It is a platform where to execute, display our intellectual skills, independent thinking skills, and to imbibe a sense of confidence in teachers, research scholars, and students. Every deliberation on Sunday, Sahityik Satsang has opened a new horizon and a new area to search, research, and rethink on a literary avenues. It is all to know thyself, and it is a brainchild of Dr. Ghanshyam sir, who is the General Secretary and the founder of iSPELL Forum, a national forum which is really working very hard with the dedication to reach out each and every individual, a literary scholar who wishes to know more and more on literary field. There are a team of like-minded people who are the executive committee members, where on this platform, I take immense pleasure because if the January events are executed in this level, it is only because of the cooperation, coordination, and support of all these AC members who are here. I extend my gratitude to them. And with this, I would like to introduce the speaker, the master of ceremony who would run this particular show for today. 70th, it is a milestone where we have reached to that 70th Sunday Sahityik Satsang with a glory yesterday. And day before yesterday, it is all over India. We know we are celebrating the festival, which is called in different names. Lori, it could be, or it could be Makara Sankranti, where the direction of the sun has changed, but it is the direction of our like-minded people. We should change towards such important deliberations which are going on Indian literary field. I take immense pleasure to welcome Professor Charles Joseph. I stammer only because he is just like my brother. I've seen him from childhood, and he has grown right before my eyes. And I feel very proud and happy that we are sharing the same platform. And even in national and international level, we have shared many such deliberations together. And one of the young budding scholar, a professor who is raising very high. And I welcome you, Charles, to this particular platform. He is an active iSPELLian who attends all the satsangs over here. And I feel very happy. He heads the Department of English in Teresian College, Mysuru, Karnataka. He has done his BA in Philomena's College and a gold medalist, and MA in English, Mysore University of Mysore, who is again a gold medalist. an MPhil on contemporary Canadian poetry, and now is a research scholar, which is waiting for his submission. He has published 6 books on national and international level, many journals he has published. He is an active young scholar who is a member of editorial board, and he is contributed to Cape Cameroon Quarterly Journal. He is a BOS member from Christ University, Jain University, Symbiosis University, Belgaum, Bellary, Karnataka State University. Then he is a contributor of question papers, setter, evaluator, and his profile goes on and on. He has published many articles and pre-review journals and uses UGC Care list journals. As an individual, I have seen him, a person who is always keen to learn many more things, and he is open to all those new creative ideas, and he is a very inspiring teacher to all the young minds who love literature. He is a ferocious reader, along with us, a good orator who has presented many papers, and he has been a person who has been identified in Karnataka universities. And on this occasion, I take immense pleasure to hand over the session to Mr. Charles Joseph. Charles, over to you now.
Very good evening, everyone. Very good evening to Madam Dr. Indrani. She rightly said that she's seen me from childhood. I should add another sentence to it and saying that she's seen me since I am a one-day boy. So I don't think I need to make anything different in this occasion because what we share as person is beyond literature here. Now coming to the 70th satsang on this Sunday, which is after the Lohri, Pongal and Makar Sankranti, we here have a webinar, a talk on contemporary literature and literary theory. When we speak about contemporary literature and literary theory, there are two things that come to our mind, and one which is very particular is to be very, very identical is that when we speak of Marxism, there is one very beautiful contemporary Marxist and a contemporary social activist who once said this: if one capitalist wants to hang and die, there is another capitalist who is here busy manufacturing ropes. So the very question that we have here with regard to the theories that we have today is that one theory that we have today gives rise to another. Unlike the way how linguistics gave rise to structuralism and structuralism gave rise to post-structuralism, and it goes on. So literature has been an area which has been quite far from the mainstream identity, streamlining itself with narratives, streamlining itself with the kind of people we have and the kind of quality identity that we have. So with regard to all these things, whenever we discuss literature, we should always keep in mind that literature has been a view which is completely different from what actually all of us see. So keeping these things in mind, let me go into the very level of program. To begin with, we need to introduce the guest. Before that, I would love to place my hearts and words of welcome to all of you. To begin with, I extensively welcome Dr. Ghanshyam sir, the president and the general secretary of iSPELL. He happens to be a force. He happens to be a person who brought a lot of ideas into the very question of existence. He has been a personality who has rendered greater amount of service. I also welcome all the office bearers in iSPELL India. At the same time, I do extend a hearty welcome to all the members of the Karnataka Forum, particularly headed by Dr. Lieutenant Indrani Madam. Whenever I speak about Dr. Lieutenant, I am reminded of a very beautiful line from Macbeth, where when the soldier comes and informs Duncan about the way how the war is going on, he says, Duncan, Macbeth, and Banquo, both of them are my trusted lieutenants, where a lieutenant cannot disobey me. and they can cross the ocean from one end to the other, swimming without even thinking for blinking an eye. This is something which justifies the very idea of Macbeth when it comes to the very question of lieutenant. She's been a person who has been pushing me and herself along with us, where it is not about growing with us, it is growing together. So keeping this in mind, I welcome you, madam. I extend a warm welcome to all the members who have gathered here and to a great extent to speak. We have at present with us Dr. Yu Venkateshwara. He is an associate professor of English. He is a researcher, an orator, and an avid reader as well. He works at St. Joseph's College of Engineering, and he is a person who has had greater amount of learning. One very beautiful thing that I could find with his profile was that he's been an alumni of, he's been one of the prestigious alumni of Loyola College, a college which is known to be the best in India, exactly to speak. And somebody like, like Father Lawrence or Father, John Jabadarai, or even for that matter, when you have somebody like, Dr. Felicita, people working there, you have been a person who has been cut through those greater kind of things where St. Ignatius Loyola's lives have been led. He has been a person who has done his master's from Presidency College, the University of Madras, Tamil Nadu, and Presidency College is again known to be a place which has been contributing quality ideas. To place one thing in very great record, Presidency College is the first place where Indian writing in English and Indian criticism in English was first established. So to place that in record, and he's had his PhD from Anna University, Chennai, and he is an expertise on English language and literature. He is someone who has his contribution as well as his expertise in English language teaching. He has been member and publisher in national and international journals. He is an erudite scholar, he is a reader, he is an identifier, and he is someone who makes things avid as well as easier when it comes to the question of talking with the subject and talking along with the subject. So keeping this in mind, to introduce the very idea or to spell the very theory that we have, it seems once a man who was walking the way asked the horse and a horse rider, stating that, "Where are you riding?" So the man said, saying that, "I am not riding, but I'm ridden." This is what happens when you're reading a contemporary theory, particularly when you're making it a point of reading anything which is contemporary as it is. So keeping these things in mind, I request Dr. Venkateshwara to enlighten and throw a lot of light on what is contemporary theory and what is contemporary literature, which is a point of discussion so that the mist that we have around us regarding the unknown areas is cleared. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Charles Joseph, sir, for your kind introduction, and thanks Indrani ma'am for the opportunity given to me. It gives me immense pleasure. It's after a long time, as you said. I remember my days in Loyola College. After that, I'm just thinking of literature today. After a long time, because I'm basically someone who's practicing ELT, English language teaching. And it's high time that Madam gave me an opportunity to talk about literature. And it is my reminiscence and what I heard and what I studied and what I prepared in my days, in the college days, is what I'm going to actually share with you. I thank all the dignitaries and the officials, office bearers for giving me this opportunity to make a presentation on contemporary literature in theater. I'm just going to throw some light on the basics of finding out the difference. I think we can make it. If there is a chance, I want to hear from people. What do they think about modernism and postmodernism? Anyone, if it's possible to unmute and speak, I welcome participants to share their views, if possible. What do they think about modernism and postmodernism? in relation to literature. We have, because it's so complex, we have various branches of knowledge, right, such as anthropology, architecture, history, philosophy, and so forth. Okay, so we'll just think about well, modernism and postmodernism with reference to literature in particular. I'd be happy if someone could share their ideas, because we are going to travel in the particular region for some time from now.
But if no one is answering, can I attempt to?
Yes, sir, please.
So modernism and postmodernism, both, there is no very clear, or what I say, a watertight compartment when it comes to the question of division between modernism and postmodernism. Modernism existed even though postmodernism came into existence. Both of them are the pre-war and the post-war issues that we have. Both of them have differences with the narrative techniques and the way how linguistics as an element got into both of them. This is something very simple that I speak.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to explain that. Okay. See, actually, I just want to define what is postmodernism. So it's very difficult to make a definition when you just define postmodernism. What is the inherent problem is the periodization. Right? You just look at it, right? If you just look at postmodernism, right? It is of complex nature, that I would say, because a postmodernist discourse, right? It is complex because of the ideological specificity, right? And what to say, it is not unified or monolithic in nature, right? They try to eschew a singular and centralized vision for a more plural and decentralized range of approaches. That is what I would say. So we need to understand that. So it itself, right, the very idea of postmodernism and periodization itself is very difficult, because there's a lot of controversy over this. Whenever you discuss, right, scholars have different opinions about the period, right? Postmodernism was in the early 50s, and according to Tony B, who informed that we are entering into the fourth and final phase of Western history, right? One is irrationalism, anxiety, and helplessness, right? So Robert B. Roy, he catalogs 14 portable days of postmodernism, out of which 1971 and 1968 are very significant, right? In 1971, Barry Commoner's The Closing Circle formulated the first two laws of ecology. Everything is connected to everything else, and everything must go somewhere. See, the very idea of literature has changed today. Do we all think that literature simply mirrors life, or it goes beyond? Can I have an answer? Does it really, the very idea has undergone a change. Okay, so now the laws of ecology states everything is connected to everything else, and everything must go somewhere. Okay, so as the idea changed, as the idea of literature mirroring life has changed in the postmodern sense, or in the contemporary sense of a different view from the contemporary writers, has it undergone any change? Does literature mirror life, or does it do something else? Does it simply mirror life, or is it doing something else now? Anyone, you can just type it in the chat box if you want. You can just type it in the chat box. Does it mirror life? Is it anything beyond that? That's my question. Does literature stop with mirroring life, or it goes beyond? Okay, right now, actually, I would say literature has changed. Right now, literature doesn't mirror life alone, it liberates. Okay, there are so many things, right? It cannot go on keeping mirroring the things, right? It actually has to liberate. Okay, so many things we are talking about: Marxism, feminism. There are plenty of things which have been discussed, right, in the recent days in contemporary literature, where things have changed. It goes beyond. It liberates humanism. That is what I would say. Rather than mirroring life, it has started liberating human life. That's what change that has happened. Okay, when you just talk about postmodernism, what is the postmodern situation, right? For example, um, see, it is a new emergence of a new subject, right? We have feminist and minority movements in the first world nations, right? And that remain in the periphery earlier, but occupies an important place in the postmodern situation. 1924, Virginia Woolf suggested that modernism, or at least the modern world, has begun on or about December 1910, when human character changed. Okay, 1977, with a mock seriousness, typical of postmodernism, Charles Dickens offered that modernism has ended on 15 July 1972 at 3:32 p.m. Right, so he has given a counter. Right, he was an architect, and we made this remark. He was keeping in mind an aesthetic style with reference to architecture. But what happens? The term postmodernism found its widespread percolation in architecture, but soon it found expression in other areas, instead of designating a cultural situation, a critical practice, an economic condition, and political attitude. Okay, so it has been used by a number of writers in 1950s and 1960s, right, Chetwa, utilized until about mid-1970s, when claim for the existence of a diversity, social and cultural phenomenon had to harden within across a number of different cultural areas and academic disciplines in philosophy, architecture, film studies, and literary subjects. Right, and so we do have, they do have the fundamental strangeness, that is what I would say, right? The words postmodern and postmodernism, okay? So, right, any person, any object, any relationship can absolutely mean absolutely anything else, right? So we need to understand that is a thin line, as Joseph sir was pointing out at the beginning, to divide between modern and postmodern, right? So what does actually do is we just we attach fixity to the earlier and transience to the later. Okay, so we know, right, understanding or knowing the contemporary, right, what are the difficulties which we have in understanding the difficulties of the contemporary is this knowledge is often gained and can only be gained and enjoyed about what it is in some sense overdone with. Okay, so the claim to know contemporary is that would always seem a kind of conceptual violence, the fixing of the fluid and formless energies of the gently present now into a knowable and speakable form. Actually, I'm quoting Connor. Okay, so it is very difficult to understand what is being said. Okay, this formulation rests upon sense of inherent division between experience and knowledge. I believe that what we experience in life can partially understand it, and when we understand life, we are no longer really experiencing it. According to this model, knowledge is always doomed to arrive too late on the scene of experience. So I think many of you will understand what he's trying to say. Right. So it is kind of an inherent division between experience and knowledge. Right. Actually, when you experience knowledge, right, you can only partially understand it. That's it. Right. And when you try to understand life, right, we no longer really experience it. That the point is that that would have been ended when you just start experiencing it. Okay. So that's a model it is being given, right? So postmodern sounds like a vocabulary which is grounded in fantasy, right? Actually, what is grounded in fantasy, right? So what exists now said to come after the present. Okay, so what you're trying to do, right? So it's connotation of nihilistic rejection issue from the oxymoronic aspect. It refers to a way of speaking about the impossible. To say I'm a postmodern would be for most people something like saying I oppose the confusion vanishes when we replace modern with modernism and explain the latter less into historical time than to a specific movement in the arts. Like this is what Ray says. Right? He seems to suggest that the entire controversy between the term postmodern, right, if it is treated like modernism, right, it refers to historical times and the specific movement in arts. Right? It doesn't deny there's a fundamental strangeness. There is a fundamental strangeness with the term postmodernism. He accepts that. Right? The very strangeness, right, it corresponds to the epistemological rupture between traditional assumption about the meaning which the postmodern situation is effective. See, the meaning, the signs has changed, right? The signs has changed in the postmodern scenario. The signs has changed in the postmodern scenario. The situation has changed, right? Postmodern becomes a serious departure from the traditional assumptions about the meaning. Okay, this traditional assumption, what it actually means, Ray actually means is not so clear, right? And it's a question of debate. Whether it starts about the traditional assumptions coming down from Victorian period, or he confines himself to the modernist mode, which starts with Yeats, Eliot, Pound, etc. Right? We are not sure. Right, but there is an ideological shift from modernism to postmodernism, and to see whether postmodernism is a break or continuation of it. Right, it is, most of us see that postmodernism is actually a continuation of the modernism at this, right? See, also, right, what critics talk about, right? Let me give the definition of what critics give about postmodernism. Right, postmodernism is a general condition of knowledge in times of information technology. Right, he says modern developments playing the role of avant-garde liberator, designed to shift and transform the structures of reason itself. Right, postmodernism concerns itself with stunting such undesirables, the limits of precise control, conflicts characterized by incomplete information, fractal catastrophes, and pragmatic paradoxes, theorizing its own evolution as discontinuous, catastrophic, non-rectifiable, and paradoxical. It is changing on the meaning of the word and knowledge, expressing change can take place. It is producing not the known, but the unknown, moving from the known to the unknown. So whatever he presents, say for example, we just move from the known to the unknown in the contemporary literature. Whatever he shares, he shares his experience, makes what is known as unknown. That's a remark that he makes, right? So it is nothing but right. It is actually a substitution for the real, right? We live in an age, signs or representations are no longer to have a verifiable contact with the world. Okay, so it talks about a sign, the meaning, it has actually changed. The representation has changed from basic reality. What was thought to be signifying meaning, the reality has changed now. That's the difference, and right? That's what is the actual change. What we mean by postmodernism, or what is actually happening in the contemporary literature, and all the literature theories are based on that, right? So, see the sign, the mass, and the perverts, a basic reality, right? An absence of a basic reality, right? It has no relation to reality. That's what they say, right? So, there is no connection to reality. It's a world of fantasy. It's a world of fantasy, right? And in other words, right, it's going to be like cutting off the immediate experiences, right? Raw and intense reality, right? That's going to be the point. See, postmodernism, what to say, is a cultural logic of the late capitalism, and the writer totalizing economic theory of Mendel's late capitalism. Fine. When you just think about postmodernism, right? So what happens is this market capitalism begets realism, and mono-capitalism begets modernism. So what brings postmodernism is nothing but the multinational capitalism brings postmodernism. Okay, so right, and so what is right? It's a contemporary global movement is not suppressing of capitalism. It's seen not as suppressing of capitalism. It is an intensification of its forms and energy. That is how it is looked at, right? Postmodernism is going to be a multinational capitalism, right? And it's marked by the exponential growth of the international corporations and the consequent transcending of national boundaries. So a postmodernism or postmodern phase of multinational capitalism is what is actually marked by the exponential growth of international corporations. So it has led, right? It has led to the capitalism has led to modernism, and multinational capitalism has led to contemporary global movement, right? Which is called as the postmodernism. Okay, so when you just think about that, right, and so let us not look at how, right, how it actually look at the formal and the stylistic feature of postmodernistic culture, right? Postmodernism actually it's a flat multiplication collage of styles, deep expressive aesthetic of unique style, right? That's the difference, okay, of postmodernism with the rest of the art, right? What happens is it's a flat multiplication and collage of styles as opposed to the deep expressive aesthetic of unique style characteristics of modernism. That's how it is different from modernism. That's what postmodernism. See, when you just look at it, right, postmodernism, it derives it, right, what it takes the old stories and old plots and all that, and it's redefined and given in a modern way. That is what is called as, right. We have a great passion for that, and so right, what to say is, right, what we see here is we do have multiple styles in the postmodern cultural forms, right? It mimics the actual tendency in contemporary social life towards fragmentation of linguistic norms, each coming to speak a curious private language of its own, each profession developing in a private code or dialect, and finally each individual coming to be a line of linguistic island separated from everyone else. That is what these fragmentaries are being expressed in the postmodern art, right, or literature. So what they do, the contemporary literature talks about this fragmentation. What kind of a fragmentation that occurs here is everybody have their own language, private language of their own. They have their own dialects, and finally, each individual coming to a kind of an linguistic island, right, separated from everyone else. This is what happens in the postmodern times. Okay, so. See, it occurs in the late 60s, right, as a phase of capitalism, right? What to say? So what happens is this capitalism it penetrates into all areas of social and cultural experiences, right? So it becomes omnipresent, and it is a uniform style that exists everywhere, right? So see, in order to understand the objective situation that the postmodernism provides, right, the process of decolonization in British and French Africa and the countercultural movements manifested through drugs or rugs as well as the emergence of new left anti-war movement in the first world. Okay, so these are the things that we need to bear in mind when it comes to the 1960s, right? See, this is a period, the 1960s is a period which is marked by the independence of Ghana in 1957, agony of Congo, the independence of France's sub-Sahara colonies, the Algerian Revolution. It is against this backdrop of these monumental events, right, that Sartre wrote, right, as preface to France Finance, the wretched of the earth, not so very long ago, the earth numbered 2,000 million inhabitants, 500 million men and 1,500 million natives. The former had the word, the others merely had use of it. Sartre describes it so. Okay, so and now it is a period of convulsive as a decolonization, which leads to the emergence of political emancipation, the more psychological and cultural rhetoric of new collective identities. So it was a period, 60s was a period when all of these native become human beings, and these internally, first of all, minority, marginals, and women fully as external subjects and official in a number of ways. Okay, so that's it, right there, where they became what is they said they have become complete human beings, either it be minorities or it be marginals or women, they have become complete human beings. Okay, so it is going to be it is a complete history of human freedom. It is a complete history of human freedom coming to self-consciousness people. So we have different ideas dominating the world. It was the emergence of this particular thing. So, what were the new collective identities and subjects of history? The colonized race, the marginality, and gender, right? That can be considered as a postmodern phenomenon, right? Let it be, as we all know, we have various approaches that were there in the postmodern thing, right? So it is going to be so it provides what would we say is postmodernism, and all these things actually have a positive response to the marginal elements, whatever has been there marginalized, have gained their freedom, they have become independent, and postmodernism is a positive response to these marginal elements, So modernism and postmodernism, what do they do? Artifacts, artistic and cultural artifacts, attitudes of the present century is what is explained through modernism and postmodernism. So these terms have reached beyond national, cultural, and generic boundaries, right? They not only they are used to refer art and culture, they are comprehensively aspects of modern societies, right? They don't actually, there is no boundary, as he rightly pointed out, and there is a small, like a thin line that separates the two. So right, what happens in the postmodern situation is it is politically volatile nature and the amorphous and politically volatile nature of postmodernism makes the phenomenon itself remarkably elusive, and the definition of the boundaries is really difficult, right, and makes it impossible, right? So what we just try to do is highly problematical, not because of the eclectic nature, but also because of thin partition between modernism and postmodernism. There is not much difference between modernism and postmodernism. A thin line actually divides, right? So both of them are voice of the contemporary situation, right? So both of them are the voice of the contemporary situation, fine. But what happens is postmodern, right, includes new subjects like history, minority, feminism, marginals. They not only provided, right, included these subjects, they celebrated these areas, right? So, um, so actually, these do have connection with modernism, but the idea is, right. The idea is it is celebrated in the postmodern situation. It is not only mentioned; it is celebrated in the postmodern situation. So postmodern. So it is going to be avant-gardism or neo-avant-gardism. Right? It's from the military. Avant-gardism is derived from the military terminology. It refers to advanced guard, which prepares the way for a larger following army. In the context of cultural politics, the term has been used to refer movements which aim at assaulting conventional standards and attitudes. Right? So there are so many things: surrealism or futurism or cubism, right? All these things, right, are conventionally described as avant-gardist because they seek to destroy the bourgeois standards. They wanted to destroy the bourgeois standards, right? So this is what is actually seen, okay? So which is going to be an avant-garde movement, right? Distinguishing between avant-gardism and modernism. We need to actually differentiate between the two. It is going to be when you just talk about the political activist elements, right? It's going to be an avant-garde movement actually working against the bourgeois standards, right? That is what the marginals have started working against the bourgeois standards, right? That is what we have in the postmodernism, a movement from modernism to postmodernism, right? See, for example, the postmodernism, it represents a crisis within the reformer, a fragmentation, right? A fragmentation. It has a greater skepticism. It is created as a greater skepticism, right? Uh, Actually, there is no sharp distinction between modernism and postmodernism, right? It refers to the political and cultural disappointment of the generation of the 1960s in the Western Europe and the USA. Okay, argues that postmodernism is mimetic of, it is just a mimetic of social, economical, and political practices in the societies in which it appears, right? And so these are the different definitions of postmodernism that we are trying to give, right? So there are people, the critics, they are divided among themselves. Actually, they are divided among themselves. Okay, so postmodernism is a fresh conception. Is a fresh confession of failure, right? As been used and abused. And more firmly, one tries to understand that it becomes conscious of the multiplicity of contradiction. So any attempt to define will necessarily and simultaneously have both positive and negative dimensions. Okay, if you're going to define postmodernism, right? Right, it is imperative to dwell deep into these contradictions in order to understand the real meaning, right? So what happens in the postmodernist discourse is that the meaning is something which is unstable. Meaning is something which is unstable. Okay, so that is what we have to understand. Right, it takes the form of self-consciousness, self-contradictory, and self-undermining statements. Okay, so it talks about the doubleness or the duplicity. It takes in many ways. Right, it talks about the conscious of contradictory nature, right, of postmodernism. Okay, so postmodern concern is to denuclearize the natural, right? That is what actually postmodernism tries to do. Fine. So what happens is, right, the Marxist theories, right, Marxist theories of class and the concept of ideology and hegemon can equally be applied to gender, race, and various conventions of family, which involve the reproduction of unequal relations as natural or normal. So it is not only that it has been seen only the as simply as the class or it is a fight between the proletarians and the bourgeois. It can represent an ideology. It happens everywhere, right? Right, capitalism requires not only the hands of labor but also the willingness of work to subject themselves to accept the status quo, and it's there the ideology works. Okay, so it looks at it different from it has a different view. Okay, and everyone looks at it, right? So what happens is ideology, it does not impress itself, not simply through consciousness or through disembodied ideas, but through systems and structures. Okay, so what happens is, right, these individuals, right, are constituted as subject, and what happens, they started thinking about themselves as free and autonomous beings with unique subjectivities. Okay, they started thinking about themselves as autonomous beings. Okay, well, they started thinking themselves as autonomous beings, right, and with unique subjectivities. Okay, so that's the idea, right, that we have to think about. Okay, so fine. So we need to understand the actual connection between the literary text and the social world. There is a connection. Actually, when you just think about the modernism or what about things, right, where they started focusing more on the background, the study, and all other things, right? This is actually scrutinized from the symptom of ideology, which forms the raw material for their production. So right now we make an analysis of what Roland Barthes did, right? He had a notion of ideology into semiotic model into mythologies, right? And Bakhtin has attempted to expose the issues of authority and authorship of literary text. Language for Bakhtin is not only sense fixed or stable, but always in a state of flux. Meaning is never singular and uncontested, but rather plural and contested. So this is the idea that all of us have to remember, which we closely associated with, which we always associate with postmodernism. Okay, so at the basic level, any act of communication is open at least two interpretations, that of the speaker or the writer or the listener or the reader. So both things have become gained importance now. Okay, most importance has been given to the writer's perspective earlier. When you just think about it, writer was given writer's background, writer's interpretation, writer's thing was given. The focus has now changed into concerning both of speaker and writer, that of the listener and the reader as well. Okay, so mean different things. Okay, nothing is stable. That is what they say. It is all liquid, right? And what happens in the interpretation depends with the reader can give his own interpretation. So that is the idea that we all remember, right? So Bakhtin argues that the standard of writing is more pronounced and evident than in others, right? Literary language displays high index of dialogism, and the novel displays many voicedness and heterologia, which reveal the full play, the multi-layers of discourse, and align themselves in various ways. So this is what we have about postmodernism. So let us move on, right? Just a minute. So what happens is this postmodern paradigm has taken a deep roots in literary studies, has taken deep roots in terms of formal or structural terms. It is questioned in the postmodernist discourse, right? The text-centered approaches have been accused of ignoring the relationship between the literature and the real world. The postmodernism has therefore only challenged in various ways both the content and methodologies of conventional English courses, but also disrupted the monopoly of literary culture which had existed in the academic circles. Okay, so the term postmodernism has entered Anglo-American critical discourse in the 1950s and in significant way in 1960s, right? It is applied to the literature and art after World War II, right? When the effects on Western moral of the First War were greatly exacerbated and extermination, the threat of total destruction by atomic bomb, the progressive devastation of the natural environment, an ominous fact of overpopulation. So that the term postmodernism is restricted not only to the art and culture, it can be used in a wider sense. It is used to indicate a new periodization. In literature, it designates those writings after the Second World War, right, or even broke with the modernist techniques and conventions without reverting to realist or pre-modernist position. Okay, so it is something new, right? It actually breaks, okay? It actually even broke with the modernistic techniques and conventions, right? It does not go back to the realist or pre-modernist positions. So that is the change which occurs in the postmodernism. See, it's actually, for example, you just look at the definition given about the, according to Connor, a postmodernistic fiction which has seemed to reject hierarchy, narrative closure, the desire to represent the world, and authority of the author provided the perfect counterpart to the criticism, which increasingly emphasized in either positive or negative modes the impossibility of representation or unreasonable freedom of the reader. So it gives the reader an unsustainable freedom. That's right. You just go beyond the text, you go beyond the writer. It gives restricted, unrestrainable freedom to the reader. So postmodernism can be used in a number of different ways, right? It can be used to refer to the non-realist and non-traditional literature and art of the post-Second World War period, to refer to literature and art which takes certain modernist characteristics to an extreme stage and refer to aspects of more general human condition in the late capitalist world of the post-1950s, which are all embracing effects on life, culture, ideology, and art, as well as generally welcoming celebrative attitude towards these aspects, right? So, so it is actually a continuation, sometimes carried to an extreme and counter-traditional experiments of modernism. A postmodern spirit lies coiled within the great corpus of modernism. Actually, it lies in the great coils of modernism. Fine. There is actually a break between modernism and postmodernism, right? So we can differentiate the postmodernism from modernism, right? It is nothing but the binary opposition. Modernism can be identified with terms as form, purpose, hierarchy, right? Mastery, finished work, right? Creation, totalization, right? Whereas postmodernism can be understood from the perspective of anti-form, play, anarchy, exhaustion, silence, performance, decreation, deconstruction, antithesis, right? These are the things which we can look for postmodernism from. Okay, so what happens is, right, there is a vast difference now in the postmodern world. Now, let me actually talk to you about the characteristics of the contemporary novels, or what happens to the contemporary state, or what actually happens with this. What are the characteristics of the postmodern or the contemporary literature? Okay, so let us try to understand this, right? The features of postmodern and contemporary literature. I've tried to define the postmodern and the contemporary literature. Now, so this is something, this postmodern or the contemporary literature is reality or hyper reality based. Okay, so it actually talks about the technological advancement. It actually talks about the technological advancement. The next one is the collage of ideas, subjects, and the genres. That is what I would say. Actually, a lot of old things are defined in a new way. These things, these plots and stories are taken up and it is presented in a new way when it comes to the postmodern or the contemporary literature. The other next characteristic that we all look at is the strong characters. Look at this. Look at the character of what to say when you just think about Hamlet or any character, any character. They are characters who are being carried away by the victims of fate and all that is there. Okay. Now, but when you just think about the characters which are portrayed today, they are all very strong characters. They are all very strong characters. Now, when you just think about the narrative forms of the earlier one, when you just think about the postmodern narratives, right? What happens here is the postmodern narratives, when you just think about it, they're all, what to say, they're all mini narratives. Okay, they don't have a single narrative that is being explained on a large scale. Instead, they try to narrate it, right? They're all mini narratives, that is what I would say. They're all mini narratives. That is what we just look at. Okay. So then when we just think about the other characters, right, you have a lot of other narratives when it is a lot of mini narratives. That is a characteristic. We don't have a unique or single narrative that is being explained throughout. You have other narratives which we have, which is unique characteristics of our postmodern or the contemporary literature. Right. And the other character that we just look at it is dissolution boundaries of right and wrong. So what happens in a traditional one or the one before the postmodern or the contemporary literature is there will be always between a fight between the right and wrong and the good or good and evil, whatever it is, right? And actually the good wins over the evil. That is how it is portrayed. But in the postmodern or the contemporary literature, it is left to the reader. He has to identify there is nothing like good or bad. Okay, there's nothing like good or bad. When you just think about college designers, kite runner, any character, Amir, or whatever it is, that they don't portray him either as good or bad, right? He sees his own brother being there. And so there are so many aspects, right, which we have this particular one, but still, there is nothing like the author prescribes a right or wrong, good or bad, and nothing of that kind is being expressed here. But instead, it is left to the reader. He has to make an analysis, right? And that is what we understand. And globalization is one more aspect which we see in the contemporary literature. The whole world has become a global village, and now all these boundaries are broken. This globalization is seen in today's literature, right? The contemporary literature. And what else we see, right? And we know, right? See, always we have the immigrant experience being explained. So the travel experience of authors that are being given. There is a wide variety that is being given, and we just do have a wide experience, right? Immigrant experience being explained. There is a binary opposition again between the good and the bad. We just can think about the J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter, though it is all going to be a young boy who faces, right, who fights against the evil once again, right? And there is always the binary opposition is explained, the good and both the good and evil exist there. That binary oppositions exist in the contemporary literature too. Fine. Now, when you just have to understand the contemporary literature, right, it talks about we need to think of the various aspects that are being, the difference that is brought in here. So what are the various kinds of approaches and literary theories that we do have? There are plenty of things which you all have to think about, right? We have a variety of things that we all have to think of, right? We have new criticism, we have feminism, we have gender, and there are a lot of things, right? Okay, when we think about the ways it has to be understood, all these literary theories actually can be understood in there. There are what to say. We do have what is called as, right, like we just think about the context-oriented approaches. That is what happens now in the present. We do have psychological context. We have psychoanalytical criticism of various schools. We have gender context. We talk about feminism. We talk about the world from the lesbian perspective, or we just talk about gay criticism. you just look at this world from a different perspective now, right? You can just talk about new historicism or cultural materialism. So what happened in new historicism in the US is going to be the same in UK as cultural materialism. Both are the same. We have post and neo-colonial criticism. You have socio-economical contexts, right? Contents like Marxism of various kinds. So the reception theory is there. Reader response theory is there. So there is a wall difference between what was done during structuralism and the deconstruction, and things have changed. So when we just think about this, okay, the context-oriented and the reader-oriented approaches have come in now. So we just look at from the works from a different perspective altogether. That is what is happening now. So what we had, right, the formalism, we moved on from formalism, then we had new criticism, and we moved on to various new areas now. Okay, so that is a wide range. That is what I said, right? Okay, see, it actually expresses to us how the whole world is a fragmentation is seen in the language itself, which is used in the postmodern context. Okay, so today we talk about we moved on from we have a different perspective towards cultural and various aspects. So that is what I would say. The very important aspect is that everybody has become human beings now, and they are liberated. And literature is seen as a device or a tool that would liberate humanism, These are the changes that we can do. Thank you all for the opportunity. Thank you one and all for the opportunity given to me. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir. So there are, it was a very interesting session. In fact, there were a lot of things that you've shed your lights on. There are a few questions to begin with. I wanted to just put across a few questions.
Yes,
I hope you would take the questions as I read it, or I would put all the questions together, or is it okay if I read one by one?
You can read it one by one, no problem.
Okay. So one of the YouTuber by name Mr. Vijay Narasimha has asked this question, stating that modernism is the literature of complexity marked by wars and shift of beliefs and morals. What's your comment on that, sir?
Yes, sir. Actually, see, that is what I was trying to tell you, right? Like modernism and postmodernism explains the fragmentation. If you think about Eliot's literature, how does he look at the world, right? Or each upon whatever it is, right? They looked at the world. They looked at the fragmentation which is occurring. There is no human communication, positive human communication, which is occurring. And modernism is certainly an expression of what is happening around us. And see, what I would say, postmodernism again is a kind records the kind of this fragmentation which is moving around, right? What happened after that? But there is a change. That is what I would say.
Okay. So there is another question on the channel we had. There it says the question is by Dr. A.S. Puvamma. She asked the question stating that what's the relationship between postmodernism and feminism?
Yes, right. Feminism has taken a new dimension, I would say. See, postmodernism is all about creating this equality, breaking, right? There is a political change, right? Actually, there is a connection in the sense feminism, the whole idea has changed today, right? We are moved far away from where we are, right? If you think about the feminism that we were learning in the years 2000s has now changed, okay? It has undergone a lot of changes. But how do we look at it, feminism or Marxism, the various forms with reference to postmodernism is that it liberates. That's a concept. It actually liberates and you are able to express yourself. Today we do have lesbian things and gay criticism. They do have their own rights to express their own feelings and ideas. That is, they actually see how they were not given an opportunity to express their views and how they were not socially recognized. And all these aspects have come in now. And feminism, actually today, it's seen as, when you just compare it with postmodernism, I would say it talks about liberation. Arts, the whole of literature has now become a tool of a liberation. That is what I would say. Instead of mirroring the existing things, it helps you to liberate from the existing scenario.
Okay. So would you like to add anything more to the topic or the question? Or the area of,
If there are any other questions, I would like to allow to answer.
so those were the only questions. Now I would request the participants in the group to type the questions in the group so that I could ask.
Yes, sir.
So can I?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. Please tell your name and then ask the question.
I'm Dr. Is Post-Modernism. Just now, sir answered my question, the relationship between feminism and postmodernism. So from somewhere where I read, like, you know, from a postmodernist perspective, the feminist tendency to universalize the experiences of women can be seen to have an oppressive element in the further marginalizing women who do not fit the dominant feminist categories of white and middle class and things of that kind. What do you say on that, sir?
Ma'am, I would just say one thing, right? And I want to answer the other question also along with it. If postmodernism has liberated, then why we are there in the clutches, right? Still, see, either it be any literature for that matter, it be feminism, right? And all that we see from different kinds of, as Madam was pointing out, we just look at it from different forms of Marxism. That is what I would say. Marxism earlier, which was applied to the class, now can be applied to feminism as well. And why we are still under the clutches is, again, I told you during the course of my lecture, that postmodernism is nothing but colonialism has not vanished. It is there in a different form. In the same way, oppression is not out. Oppression is not totally out of the world. It has not liberated. But literature teaches you how to liberate yourself. That's the point that I would say. The literature leaves it to the reader. He presents the literature of contemporary world. It presents the picture of oppression and things, and it helps the reader to find. Right? It doesn't prescribe us what it would do in a traditional way, right or good or bad. It just presents it. It presents reality. It is in the hands of the reader to actually interpret, to understand, and to react. That is what I would say.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome, madam. Welcome. So there are two more questions. One is by Deependra Barua. He asks that if modernism and postmodernism liberate, then why people are still under the clutches of regionalism?
Yes, sir, I understand that. That's what I was just trying to tell him. See, postmodernism has just shown the way. That is what I would say. What was naturally accepted. See, for example, when you just think about the ideologies expressed earlier, it stated that you need to accept it. You need to accept the class distinction. And it was the thought of the elite, which was considered to be the thought, right? And there was a thing that there was an idea that the only elite can express, and what was expressed by the elite class is the idea that has to be accepted by the marginalized, right? Okay. So today, the thoughts of the marginalized have come into existence. When you think about Dalit literature, or any other literature for matter, right? Today, it has given place for people to express their views. And today it is possible because the marginalized have come into the scene. Not the elite alone can express their views. Not the topmost part of the society to express their views and others listen to them, what we had earlier. Nowadays, it is the voice of the common man. It is the voice of the unvoiced. That's the difference. Now it is unvoiced. I don't say that the oppression and everybody is liberated, but that everybody is liberated. But we hear the voice of the unvoiced. That is what I would say.
Okay, fine. So there's another question by Anupama. She asks that how important it is to analyze text on the basis of the templates of theories.
Actually, that is what I would say. There are a lot of templates of theories that is available to us, right? And now we do have, we started with structuralism, formalism. We do have a variety of things, right? Looking at how it has been done, what Sashur has said, and what many other people have said about things. But what I would write, either it be a psychoanalytic perspective or Marxist analysis, whatever it is that you're going to do, right? And you're going to analyze, you're going to take a Bakhtin for yourself, or you're going to have Glenn Brooks, or whatever it is, that is what I would say. It is now in the hands of the reader, right, to analyze it, to analyze the text and to see what is being expressed. That is what I would say. It is in the hands of the reader to analyze a text, right, based on any literary theory can be used to focus on what is being said, right? Either use psychoanalytic perspective or new historicism. See, that one thing that I want to tell you is it depends on the, see, a kind of what to say, the literature or the things, the history that we write itself is biased, I would say. What happens, right? The importance that was given to Gandhiji in the nationalist movement was not given to the other people in the same history. There is a biased one which was represented. But what I would suggest is, whatever is the model that we use, right? The same, you just take the concept of Bharatiyar and Bharatidasan, both of them were nationalist poetry in Tamil Nadu. Right? The kind of importance that was given to Bharatiyar is not the same that was given to Bharatidasan, if you consider. Okay, so I'm just talking about new historicism or how cultural materialism or any literary theory for that matter. It is in your hands to critically analyze, decipher the meaning that is being conveyed. That is why we have the other layer of meaning. Who is more important? Is it the text or the writer? But what I would suggest is what is happening today. It is the reader who interprets is more important than the context, than the text, than the writer. It is the reader, his own interpretation is more important today. That's the change that has happened today. That is how I see that. Okay, that is the change that has happened today, right? The focus is different now. It all depends on the reader, his own response. Okay, we do have reader response theory or the reception theory. It focuses more on the reader. There is a paradigm shift towards the reader than the text, the context, and the literary theory. That is what I would say. It is in the hands of the reader to interpret it.
Okay, so there's the last question.
Yes,
This
sir,
is
please.
again by Deependra Barua, and it adds to say that, are we going to expect ultra-modernism and so on in the days to come? If so, then I think the very essence of literature is lost, which is there to feel energized and enjoy.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Actually, we are moving towards ultra-modernism, as you were trying to point out. See, any literary text, see, what I would suggest is, actually, it has stopped mirroring life, and any text is for enjoyment. We will never lose this kind of an enjoyment that we do have, right, with the literary text. Actually, it portrays reality. It has fantasy. You do have a variety of things like science fiction. What is the ultimate aim of all these things or the hidden agenda? Is to represent the present scenario and to focus on how to come out of these clutches that where we are in, either it be in the form of feminism or it be in the form of any other issue for that matter. See, let it be the colonial hangover that we have, or anything for these. Anything for that matter, we just try to come out of all this, right? It's in the hands of the reader. So he is going to enjoy that. We just move on to ultra-modernism, that is what I would say. But everything, like colonialism, it still exists today. Whatever is the ism that we have today, in spite of all this, people are under the clutches. And that is what is reflected in literature. But what is the only change that I would stress is that the unvoiced are voiced today. Thank you there. Thank you for that.
Okay, so this is the last question.
Yes.
Shortly explain Dalit literature. This is a question by M. Nandini. So she wants you to throw some light on Dalit literature.
Yeah, that is it. We know Dalit literature, right? What is Dalit literature, right? The oppressed, right? See, actually, it is nothing but a response to the oppression, okay, in the mid-20th century. That is what I would say. So it is nothing but Dalit literature. It is nothing but it is a corpus of writings of the oppressed. That is what I would say, right? See, what is that? That is what I was trying to tell you. The upper class was the one who was expressing their views earlier. The oppressed were not given an opportunity to voice their ideas, right? So what do? These Dalit writers, what do? They write in quest of human dignity, right? They have a vision and a cause, right? What do? They're right. They want dignity. They want dignity, humanitarianism, and they just actually they need social reform. They wanted social reform. That is it. It's the voice of the oppressed. That is what I would say. The kind of pain that these people have undergone because of the oppression which was there for centuries. That is what I would say. If we just talk to people, right, and this is what we have in the Dalit literature, right? It's nothing but the protest, right? We just bring in a kind of sympathy that we have, and we do have a lot of other things, right? These texts, right? What do? They come only in the middle of the 20th century, but actually they talk about. So what they do is, see, they talk about the cultural, social, and other oppressions, and they want to liberate themselves. That's the thing, right? So this is what I mean. This is what we mean by Dalit literature.
Uh, that's very nice, sir. Thank you very much for that. I hope there are no more questions. So keeping that in mind, now we have the
1
chairperson.
minute, sir. Excuse me. I just have a query. Anju. I'm not.
Madam, can you just tell your name and then ask the question?
So it's Dr. Harpreet Kaur.
Okay, so please ask.
Yeah. So I just wanted to know, when it comes to Dalit literature or post-colonial literature or feminism or feminist literature, if we all see in any perspective, it is in one way or the other a type of protest against the oppression or the suppression which these people had to endure for ages. So it's in a way it's a protest. If you see in any of this literature.
Certainly, ma'am. Certainly, ma'am. It is a protest. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Certainly, it is a protest against the oppression for the ages. That is what we say when we just talk, when you just read the Dalit literature, right? You could understand the kind of oppression, the pain that they have undergone for ages. See, that's the same with feminism also. So, are they liberated? We do have so much of feminist writings today. And there was a question earlier asking us, are we all liberated? That postmodernism has liberated us? No. The point is that the oppression is there and the suppression is there. See, we are able to protest. That is the point, right? We are able to listen to the voices, right? And they equality. They claim equality, and is equality given to all, right? And that is what I would say. Is B.R. Ambedkar given equal prominence as other leaders? That's a remarkable question that we have. It's all unanswered. Maybe a controversy, but I want to rise. Okay, so what he has done is on campaign for the oppressed. Is he given a due importance in the nationalist movement? What history has done to us? What literature has done to us? Right? Do we have equal place given to all? So the kind of oppression, but for women that who have been feminism or anything for that, but the class that we have, the oppressed class, either it be in the form of caste or creed, whatever it is, right? We have to agree that it is all a protest that they wanted to make, right? If that is true, madam, right? What we see is, it is actually a protest against the icons that were there in the society, the icons that were existing in the society, either be post-colonial or either it be anything. So have we lost colonialism? We do have it in a different form today. So what is that we do in colleges? We teach students, we train them to be part of, right? What is happening here? What is happening? We just train them to be part of the multinational companies. We just tell them you are going to be you have to get a good job and you have to get yourself settled. What is that? Again, is going to be a kind of new colonialism, right? Again, you're colonized in a different name. It is going to be international colonialism. That is what is happening, right? When are we going to become entrepreneurs? These ideas have to be sown into the minds of the young students. When are they going to become entrepreneurs? Okay, so why we are training them to be to become to be a part of the trap which was laid before them? Why do they have to fall in the trap and get caught? Why don't they become entrepreneurs themselves? Why they cannot develop their own ideas? Why this is not sown? We are still with the colonial hangover. All right, we just do that. We just remind. Right, we just develop this attitude among everyone. We try to. It was a change that has occurred now. There is a change in the perspective. What happens is we are not ready to accept what is said. So that is the change. Okay, we are not ready to accept. what is said. We today have our own perspectives, and that is what we are going to say. Right? That is what is being said. See, it is the fight between the haves and the have-nots. Let it be anything, not only in the financial things. It is a fight, it is a protest of the have-nots against the haves, whoever it be. Let it be feminism, Marxism, or colonialism, or any ism for that matter. Thank you all for the wonderful opportunity given to me and for interacting with me.
Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir. Thank you very much for answering the questions also. Now I have to introduce the chairperson, Dr. Neelam Yadav. She is with us, and she happens to have, she is faculty at the Delhi College of Arts and Commerce, affiliated to the University of Delhi. She's quite interested in African American literature, pandemic literature, women's studies, and travel writing. She aces her intellectual qualities with her articles and her publications, and she has also been a participant in FTPs and seminars and conferences. She has presented papers at national and international levels, and she has also been members in various committees as well. So over to you, madam. Let me listen a Rajasthani voice from Delhi. Madam, I think you've not unmuted.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Professor Joseph, for such a lovely, beautiful introduction. And it's literally very, very cold here. I'm like chilling, sitting there in my room. Okay, so yeah. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, and before I begin, like commenting on anything else, first of all, I would like to start by congratulating our speaker of today, Dr. Venkateshwara, for his commendable lecture on contemporary theory and literature. It was, of course, very informative lecture. It's all but I must say that all the concepts, they were expressed in a very limpid way. That it's like he made it very easy with his expertise in the subject, of course. I must say that the topic, when I first heard the topic, contemporary literature and theory, the first thing which came to my mind is that it's a very vast topic, and it's not at all possible to kind of summarize it in 1 hour's lecture. But I must say that sir has done justice to the topic, and he has primarily focused his lecture on modernism and more specifically on postmodernism. So traced with deliberation, the idea of postmodernism in history and literature. And I must say, sir, that you have very aptly highlighted that how postmodern is not just a contemporary literature or theory. It is kind of an umbrella term for all those post-war developments in the literature, such as theater of absurd, feminism, reader response theories, late capitalism, magic realism, or what you referred as fantasy. Then you also talked about how this multinational capitalism has led to contemporary postmodernism. We need to understand that postmodernism it's a cultural movement in its own right. It's like considering it solely as a successor of modernism, it would be very misleading. We cannot just say that once the postmodernism ends and we started with postmodernism, this is something very misleading, very reductive, because postmodernism is somehow above that. Like as I was talking about it, when I heard about the topic, when Professor Indrani, when she told me the topic is contemporary literature and contemporary theories, then I looked at this topic thinking it about two different separate things, that this is how we could even like talk about it, like contemporary literature and then contemporary theories, and then how two of them mingle, and how in current scenario, in the present, it is necessary that we talk about contemporary literature and contemporary theory all into one. Okay, so when we talk about like the first thing, when you hear the term contemporary literature, okay, so the word or the nomenclature, like the contemporary, it means like living or belonging to or something which is occurring in the present. Okay, so when we talk about contemporary literature per se, then it is a literature about the present, about something which is happening in the current period of time, something which is like which represents now, right? But then I don't know, it's always been this question that when does this contemporary begins for us? I mean, like when we teach history of English literature to our students, then we teach them that there are these definite eras, like there is romantic era, there is Victorian, there is modern in English literature, there is like transcendentalism in American literature. We teach them that there is this when they begin and this is when they end, right? But similarly, the same question is applicable for the contemporary literature, that when does contemporary literature is written, like when does it start? Okay, so of course, I'm going to talk more about what postmodernism is, as sir has discussed mostly on postmodernism, but I'll just like refer to that. If we talk about the scholars, academicians, or the critiques related to this field of contemporary literature, then they somehow have drawn, I'll kind of not say that there is any consensus drawn as when does this contemporary literature actually began. But most of the scholars and academicians, they agree to the point that any literature or any writing which is completed after 1940s, and most importantly like post World War II, is referred as contemporary literature, right? So this is about, of course, contemporary literature. But then when we talk about contemporary literature post 1940s, then we can somehow relate it to the modernist and postmodernist literature, right? As sir has discussed in detail, very too much, like primarily he focused on postmodern literature, that postmodern literature is not static, it's very dynamic. It's like he began his lecture by stating that everything around us is changing. The very idea of literature has changed. So there is no one way of looking at literature. There are like various ways, and this is one of the primary the characteristic of postmodernist theory, that there is no one end. And if we talk mainly about the postmodernist literature, the novels per se, okay, there is no one end. Like it's open for the readers, for the interpreters, that how do they want to conclude the end of the novel. Okay, so this is, of course, there are various other characteristics which are assigned to a work to call it a postmodernist work of literature. It is maybe we can call that there is this notion of a singular center. For instance, that there is that central meaning, there is no central meaning of the text. The text is always open for the multiple interpretation. And sir even talked about the importance of readers, that readers, they play very crucial role in the interpretation of the text. He referred to Roland Barthes here and Stanley Fish, how their theories played very important role in understanding the postmodernist text. Right, so I'm of course not going to go too much into detail, but I must congratulate sir, that you sincerely have an expertise in your subject, and it is like it's been voraciously presented to us by the way you have answered all the questions. You have talked about the literature, you talked about feminist literature, and like, of course, you started with postmodernism, but the way you have related postmodernism to all other literary theories and the literature, the contemporary literature, is commendable. And I would like to read a couple of quotes from the famous theorist about that, why it is important to bring the theory into the literature, right? Because till now, if I remember being like when I was in college, theory was something which gave me fear. Like I was frightened of talking about theories, because there were those days when theory was a different entity and literature was separate. Like, of course, the intellectuals, they try to bring them together, but people, of course, it was regarded as the topic for intellectuals, not for the students. But now things have changed. And of course, I would like to conclude that the process and this entire method of critical analysis of text is evolving today. right? And so does, of course, the use of the theory. So theory is not just restricted to the literary text or the literary approaches, or let's just say to reading of the novels or the poetries or the dramas in our classroom. It has widened out to the other domains like literary theories. Now we apply it while reading psychoanalysis or like philosophy, right? So now a time has come when we accept theory as a part of the text. And here I would like to quote the Jean-Francois Lyotard's word, that the moment has come to stop the terror of theory. It is a kind of writing like any other and must yield up its claim of special privilege and its claim that it can talk about criticism and literature from an uncontaminated position outside there. So, and rightly, and as I would like to conclude it by referring to what Professor Charles Joseph said at the very beginning, that this is not the end. Of course, one theory gave rise to another one. So all we need to do is that we have to streamline it in the literature that we read, we analyze, and whatever we write. So finally, of course, before I conclude it, congratulations, Sir Venkateshwara, for your wonderful lecture. And finally, I would also like to thank a number of people who made this day a very success. First of all, we all owe a big thank you to Professor G.A. Ghanshyam, founder and general secretary of iSPELL, Professor Anupama Vora, Dr. Prasant Chakrabarti, Dr. Ashoka Sachdeva, of course, for their initiative approach for organizing such events, Professor Charles Joseph for being a gentle master of ceremonies, Dr. Shalini Yadav, my very close friend, the one who has introduced me to iSPELL. And finally, my big thank you to Dr. Indrani, a very energetic, lively person, for organizing such an enthusiastic, well-organized event. So thank you very much all. And yeah, good evening.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your kind words. It was very nice. I thank Indrani, ma'am, for giving me this opportunity to deliberate. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for that. Thank you all.
Welcome. Thank you very much, madam. Listening to your words, I feel like saying what Hamlet says when he is asked, saying that, "What did your father speak to you?" He says, "Words and words and words." So it was, though it was words that we had, it had a lot of impact. Now it's time for us to listen for a few words of thought, introspection, and idea of iSPELL from the Vice President, Dr. Prashanta Chakrabarti. May I request you to speak a few words of enlightenment, sir.
Thank you all, and good evening to everybody. I'm really thankful to our speaker, sir, because he explained in such a way beautifully what is modernism and postmodernism and how it can be applied in in judging literature. So I'm really grateful because after a long time I have heard such a beautiful lecture from a person who is really devoted to this literary theory, and he explained it in such a beautiful manner. It's really a grateful. It's really a very difficult job done very easily. So I thank him again, and also the chairperson. She beautifully summarized the whole lecture in her own way, and she is really very attractive in an attractive way. She presented all the things in a very beautiful manner. So I'm really grateful to her also. I'm thankful to her also. Now about iSPELL is actually, iSPELL began its journey on 5th September, and when everybody was under under lockdown, that means everybody was within home. In that moment, Professor Ghanshyam, he requested some of his friends all over India to join hands to find out a way so that we can meet the world outside. So in that way, we began our journey, and from that day onwards, we throughout the India, we tried to reach each and every corner of the country so that people, we can encourage people to do something in favor of the interest of English learning or English literature, so that this English literature can develop in a way, and it can reach each nook and corner of the country. So that was the main issue and main objective also. And we found that by 1.5 years, we are in our we are running very much towards goal. That means we are very much active in our program, and you have also seen that throughout the throughout the year we have maintained each and every Sunday we have Sunday Saitya Satsang. So that is a very great achievement. And by this time we have signed MOUs with different universities and colleges, and we have arranged so many international conferences with in collaboration with some universities and colleges. We have also we have also got a very important person like forgot his name just now, Ashcroft in our platform. So this is a very good achievement, and we have as many as 6 forums probably now in this iSPELL. So no doubt this is a very good achievement, and we are trying to reach more and more states, more and more regions, so that iSPELL can have a iSPELL can meet its goal. Okay, so that is our achievement, and we have to run a lot so that we can reach more and more states and more people. So with these few words, I like to conclude and thank everybody here, so that we can do better again in our next journey. And I personally thank Indrani ma'am, because she has done a great job, and also at the same time she gave me an opportunity to speak here in this platform, and really I am very much thankful to her also. So with these few words, I like to conclude. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Welcome, sir. Thank you for your kind words. Now I request Dr. Indrani to distribute the certificate.
Thank you, Charles. But I request Prashanta Chakravarti sir to distribute the certificate. It would be an honor, sir, from iSPELL if these certificates are given. May I request Pramod sir to display the certificates?
Okay, the first certificate goes towards the speaker for his beautiful presentation, Dr. Yu Venkateshwara, Associate Professor of English, St. Joseph College of Engineering, Anna University, Tamil Nadu. Thank you, sir. Could you please receive the certificate?
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for the opportunity, and thank you all for all that we have done. Thank you, sir.
So the next certificate goes to our chairperson, Dr. Neelam Jadhav, Assistant Professor of English, Delhi College of Arts and Commerce, University of Delhi. So I am really grateful that you were present there, and you have done your job very beautifully.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
And this is for Professor Charles Joseph, Assistant Professor of English and Head Postgraduate Department of English, Teresian College, Mysuru, Karnataka. He is really a master of ceremony. I have really found a very rare quality in him, that he could do it very efficiently, and he could run the program efficiently and very, in a very sweet manner. So I am really thankful to him again, and I request Professor Charles to accept our certificate.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your kind words. I would do that in future as well.
Yeah.
Uh,
So thank you again.
Welcome, sir. It is said, to come to the end, it is nicely said that welcome and thank you are two different words. With the word welcome, the unknown becomes the known, and with the word thank you, the known becomes the unknown. Standing in between the way of what the entire Sunday Sahitya Satsang was for today, learning and identifying about what postmodern and modern theories were, and beyond all, what it threw a lot of light on the dark and the mystery areas of contemporary theory as well as the contemporary literature. So to begin with, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to everyone. But to place it in order is what something which literature makes it interesting. A hero cannot come in before the villain, because that's what Shakespeare teaches us. It is only an ordinary character who introduces who the hero is. So to begin from, I express my gratitude to the president, the committee members, as well as the forum of iSPELL India for creating a moment on Teachers' Day, on a day when everyone was at home, which reminds me of that very two sections of Shadow Lines by Amitabh Ghosh. One, it says homecoming, and the other one says going home. So similarly, with the question, coming home was the inauguration of iSPELL, and going home was to bring all of us together into a home like iSPELL. So I thank all the members of iSPELL India for making this possible on behalf of everyone. I extend my gratitude to the resource person, Dr. Yu Venkateshwara. It's quite impressive to listen to the way he spoke, to the way he deliberated, the way he identified, and the way he has put across certain things. And the kind of ideas that he gave made even a mountain made into a molehill. So thank you very much for your words, sir. It was interesting listening to you. My tongue of turns very right to thank our chairperson, Dr. Neelam, who happens to be, though shivering with cold here, made the session warm with her ideas and words. She brought in a lot of light. She brought in a lot of new ideas. She brought in a lot of identical culture. And like the way to quote Roland Barthes, who writes very beautifully, says, the work of an author is to make simple things complicated, but the work of a critic is to make the complicated things simple. So she made things simple, and she made it quite easier for all of us to understand. Thank you very much, madam, for your presence and for your words. I take this opportunity to thank the real captain and the lieutenant, Dr. Indrani, for making it so possible, for making it so enerving, for making it with so much of energy, that she is here with so much of light. Though the sun is setting, there is so much of light in the place where she sits. So thank you very much for being with us and making us run around and making us do around with things. Thank you very much, madam. I express my heartfelt gratitude to all the forums of Tripura, South Karnataka, and all the members of Karnataka Forum and the working committee, whoever is into the committee. And I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Prashant Chakraborty too at this moment, because he was a senior teacher, but then he behaved so immensely identical that he was identified as one among us and one with us. So the cast and the crew of the book of the moment was nowhere indifferent when compared to the way how it was. So I thank everyone. I thank all the members who attended because of your questions, particularly Tuama, or even for that matter, the questions of Vijay Narasimha, or for that matter, the questions that the others asked were quite impressive. Your questions were quite a lot of light. Your questions were quite a lot of understanding of your level of thinking and your level of idea towards whatever that was presented. Thank you for your questions, and I thank all of you once again. Hope to meet with all health and hail and happiness and holiness together the next Sunday. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Charles. It was really wonderful. A real literary satsang is where it actually ignites a mind with all this knowledge and other things. Yes, the deliberations which was there, it was really mind-blowing. And I would like to formally thank, as the event coordinator of this month, I thank the resource person, keynote speaker of today. It is Dr. Venkateshwara sir, for accepting our invitation amidst all his busy schedule. My special thanks to the chairperson, Neelam Yadav, ma'am. You know what are the commitments you have in your family on this Sunday, but yet amidst all these things, you were able to do justice to the role which was given to you. My heartfelt gratitude to you, ma'am. And my special thanks to Charles Joseph. You have done an excellent work of running the show in a very exciting way. Thank you so much. And I thank the iSPELL General Secretary, sir, Dr. Gansham, sir, for introducing me to this iSPELL forum, where it is a learning and growing together. Yes, we all are there together to learn and keep walking together. So walk a mile, walk a while is something which actually makes us to understand that it is not the end, but the beginning for another session, upcoming session in the next Sunday, 71st Sahitya Satsang. So with all these words, my special thanks to President Anupama Ora ma'am for always being that great support, to Vice President sir, to Joint Secretary, and my immense gratitude to Shalini Yadav ma'am, who is always there to back up me, telling that, no, this could be the better one and the best one. And my immense gratitude to the technical support which is rendered by Dr. ENGLIHS sir, on behalf of everyone over here present. Thank you so much for all those patience you have, the height of patience to run this every satsang, sir. So formally, thank you so much for all the participants who are here, students and professors, research scholars, along with the YouTube viewers. It was quite good. Some of them have come out with the questions on YouTube also, where Charles was able to read out those things. And thank you so much for all this great opportunity given. And thanks for the Sunday special time which has been kept only for iSPELL. So this commitment is from the iSPELLs, where iSPELlians, where we all are together for one particular cause, elevate and to facilitate. Thank you so much for each and everyone, and be safe. Stay safe and healthy. Thank you, and hope to see you all in the next event, Sunday event. Thank you so much.